Okay. Namaskar. आप सभी का नमस्कार to all of you who have joined today and who are viewing us in this 11th program in the lecture series of Upanyasa Malika. As you have already seen in our previous 10 programs that various aspects has been covered by our esteemed speakers related to the governance, quality initiatives, research, MOU, and various all aspects which you all can see also. Whether if you have missed also that program, you can see that program that is already recorded on our NAC social media handle, which is on our YouTube handle also, Twitter handle also, and Facebook handle also. So for visiting the NAC social media handle for YouTube, that is NAC dash India, then you can log in into that for listening to the previous program which have been covered on the various aspect which is very necessary for the higher education institution to achieve the qualitative aspects. As we all know that NAC is regularly trying, and under the leadership of our eminent NAC director Professor S.C. Sharma sir, who is regularly boosting the higher education institution in India, and as per direction by the Ministry of Education, who is keen to boost our higher education institution in India to the topmost, to the world-renowned institution, which is currently running in all over the world. So, taking taking the direction from the Ministry of Education and taking the under this program has been launched. This various program has also been launched by the NAC. Earlier we have launched a program of best practices where we are we to give information regarding what are the practices needs the institutions for reaching the qualitative aspects. So in regard to this program has also been launched, and our speakers which we have listened to also, Professor S. Sharma sir, NAC director, Professor Sri Swami, who is an academic expert, is also head of research analysis of NAC. So today's program is regarding a new initiative in higher education. So as all know, the government of India, Ministry of Education, recently in 2020. So taking in cognition with this, we will be organizing more a program regarding what are the various the qualitative aspects which the higher education institution should focus on. So taking regard of this topic has been chosen as per the suggestion which are coming from the higher education institution. Various stakeholders of higher education institution have been giving us reply to our social media. They are emailing us, they are calling us. So taking account of that, we have selected today's topic on newer initiative in higher education. So as I told you, first speaker is our NAC director, Professor S.C. Sharma sir, who will be giving a talk on the introduction to new initiatives in higher education. As you all know, he's a multitasking man. He's a quite eminent scholar. He's a quite eminent researcher and a good administrative officers also. So he has been a former vice chancellor. He was a former vice president to the Karnataka Higher Education. And the next speaker is Dr. Professor Srikanta Swami sir, who has been associated with various universities for research, for his research abilities, and right now he's an academic expert to the NAC. So now I would like to call Professor S.C. Sharma sir to kindly speak on the today's topic on the introduction to newer initiative in higher education. Now I request Professor S.C. Sharma sir to kindly speak on this. Please, sir.
Namaskar. Today's lecture series 11 is on newer initiatives in higher education, and I am grateful to all of you for listening to all the 11 lecture series. And again, Professor Srikant Swami, who is an eminent scholar in the field of higher education, will be talking further details after my introductory speech. Quality improvement is a continuous process which requires constant effort on the part of those who are involved in the process of running the institution. And process of higher education, keeping the global scenario in mind, both the central and state governments have initiated newer dimensions to the curricular areas, teaching, learning, research, ICT and examination system, etc., and introduced various schemes to benefit the teaching faculty and students. In today's talk, I will be speaking on two initiatives, namely centrally sponsored scheme for strategic funding, that is Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan RUSA, and the second one is technical education. Well, Indian higher education system is on its way for an unprecedented transformation driven both by economic and demographic changes. By the end of 2020, India is expected to be the world's third largest economy with a corresponding growth in size of its young population of age under 25, focusing on key issues of access, inclusion, expansion, equity, quality and excellence. Every aspect of higher education is planned to reorganized and remodeled. Proposals for new models of leadership, management, funding, quality assurance, accountability, relationships with industry, international collaboration, etc., etc. You know, these are all some of the things on modern lines, and various government initiatives are being adopted to boost the growth of distance education market, besides focusing on new education techniques such as e-learning and m-learning, which would lead to increased access and personalization of higher education. Centrally sponsored scheme for strategic funding, Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan RUSA. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, CSS, that was launched in 2013. It aims at providing strategic funding to eligible state higher educational institutions. The central funding in the ratio of 60 to 40 for general category and 90 to 10 for special category states and 100% for union territories. And the funding would flow from central ministry through the state governments, union territories to the state higher education councils and reaches the identified institutions. And objectives of RUSA, it is to improve the overall quality of state institutions by ensuring conformity to prescribed norms and standards and adopt accreditation as a mandatory quality framework. Then to usher transformative reforms in the state higher education system by creating a facilitating institutional structure for planning and monitoring at the state level, and to ensure reforms in the affiliation, academic and examination system, to ensure adequate availability of quality faculty, to create an enabling atmosphere in the higher educational institution, to expand the institutional structure by creating additional capacity in existing institutions and establishing new institutions, to correct regional imbalances in access to higher education, to improve equity in higher education by providing adequate opportunities of higher education to SC, STs and socially and educationally backward classes. And RUSA would create new universities through upgradation of existing autonomous colleges and conversion of the colleges in a cluster. It would create new model degree colleges, new professional colleges, provide infrastructural support to universities and colleges. And RUSA would also support reforming, restructuring and building capacity of institutions in participating states. Well, the following are the primary components of RUSA, that is upgradation of existing autonomous colleges to university, conversion of colleges to cluster university, infrastructure grant to university, new model colleges, research innovation and quality improvement, equity initiative, faculty improvement, vocationalization of higher education, capacity building and preparation, and initiatives in technical education. Technical All India Council for Technical Education has introduced a scheme called as Career Advancement Scheme for teachers and other academic staff in technical institutions. In fact, AICT has been doing wonderful in the recent past, and a lot of good things have happened in technical education, and AICT is very, very progressive. And with these regulations passed in the year 2012, accordingly, when each faculty member submits performance based appraisal system in Proforma, the concerned universities and institutions duly supported by all credentials, its API scores and guidelines are set out. And well, national innovation and startup policies and skill development mission encourages the higher education institutions to nurture various types of skills so that their placement rates can go higher and brings lot of credentials, and it helps in achieving the vision of skilled India and competes in the job market. The draft national state policies also suggest lot of recommendations to restructure the administrative and academic aspects of higher education. And the above initiatives, whatever I just mentioned, will surely motivate and make the administrators, academicians to be aware of these initiatives, schemes, so that they can empower their students to get the benefits of higher education. I think now I leave it to Professor Srikant Swami to further elaborate on the following newer initiatives. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
I sincerely thank Professor S.C. Sharma for having spoken in brief with respect to RUSA as well as the role of AICTE in order to contribute for the quality of higher education. Thank you very much, sir. I always used to appreciate you because you are a person with lot of innovations, and you are a person with lot of commitment, and you are a person you are interested in encouraging the people who have got potential to contribute for the cause of higher education. Thank you once again. And now I am going to continue in my talk today. Once again, my warm welcome to all my viewers there who are there as participants from the other side. As usual, I am here with basic preparation with respect to the newer initiatives in higher education. Around 19 to 20 higher education initiatives I am going to cover today in brief. Because the paucity of time, I may be covering only the essential points under each scheme or each initiative. And I expect all of you to kindly keep this. And at the end, probably, you can go back and refer to the original sources and collect the information and see how best you can implement in your own institutions in such a way that the teaching faculty can be improved, infrastructure can be developed very well, and at the same time more emphasis can be given on research. Therefore, let me start my presentation. Newer initiatives in higher education. As you are all familiar, that higher education concentrates on some of these aspects, like quality assurance mechanism on a priority basis. Every higher education institution is to take up a lot of initiatives, work out mechanism by means of which the quality should be assured. Then effective teaching and learning process, need for developing good infrastructure, improvement in governance, leadership and management, transformation of higher education, emphasis on open and distance learning, ICT facilities and online training, blended learning innovations, encouragement to socially economically deprived group, and opportunities for self-learning. I think some of these areas you are all familiar, or you are concentrating on these areas, and you have come out with various kinds of strategies by means of which you wanted to make each aspect of this program an efficient and an effective one. Now the national, I am going to start with this. The first initiative is the National Innovation and Startup Policy of 2019. What is this? To enable the higher education institutions to actively engage students, faculties, and staff in innovation and entrepreneurship related activities, the National Innovation and Startup Policy 2019 is a guiding framework. The following are some of the major areas or the key points related to innovation and also the startup. Strategies and governance is one area. Startups enabling institutional infrastructure, nurturing innovations and startups, product ownership rights for technologies, then the developed at institutional level, organizational capacity, human resources and incentives, creating innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurship at institutional level, norms for faculty startups, pedagogy and learning interventions for entrepreneurship development, collaboration, co-creation, business, relationships and knowledge exchange, entrepreneurial impact assessment. Like that, the policy includes many important areas and each one is equally important. It is for the higher education institutions to take whatever that is applicable, that particular area, start developing upon and try to get the benefit for the benefit of the institution. Now the second initiative what I am going to touch upon is the UGC guidelines for online education. Online education is a need of the hour and it has gained momentum all over the globe. There are specific guidelines given by University Grants Commission for online education. It was given in 2019. And for further information, you also can visit, but I'll be just covering upon the essential points. Online programs eligibility to be, some of the following highlights will speak about the eligibility criteria. The higher education institution which is interested to provide the online education should have been in existence as a university for at least 5 years. Therefore, if you have existed maybe more than 5 years, easily you can apply for this online education and you can run that course. If you have started 2 years back or 3 years back, you are not eligible. The HEI should be NAAC accredited with a valid minimum score, CGP of 3.25 on a 4-point scale. If you have got 3.25 score and if you have got that grade equivalent to the 3.25, then you are eligible to run this online course. An HEI may apply for approval to offer online programs in only those disciplines in which it has already been offering the same or similar programs in regular mode, except the programs disallowed as in class 1.3. They have in 1.3 class, they have said these courses cannot be run, these programs cannot be run. Some condition that they have put. Other than that, you can just take it up and we can proceed. The program requirements are, sorry, I think Sulesh, it is jumping. Okay. Eligible higher education applies for recognition to offer online programs are required to fulfill the following requirements. Number 1, program development and planning for each of the programs being applied. Therefore, you have to submit this. Then provisioning and establishment of the technology infrastructure that is required for program development and delivery. Therefore, you have to provide with the evidences with respect to the establishment of technology infrastructure. Because without the technological infrastructure, it may not be possible for you to provide the online education, and therefore they are insisting for you to make the provision, establish the structure and show that as an evidence. Fulfill the staff requirements as per the required details. Sufficient number of staff members should also be there to run the show. Therefore, as per the requirement, you have to just show to this UGC that you are having the required number of staff members, you are having the infrastructure to run the program. Ensure the establishment of a quality assurance process as detailed herein. This is equally important. You have to make sure that, sir, though we are running the online course, the quality in no way it is inferior to the offline course, or out of online courses. Whatever the regular mode courses that we are running, what quality we are maintaining for the regular courses, I think in no way our online courses should be inferior, and you have to guarantee that. Under the eligible criteria, some of the other points are higher education institutions has the approval of the statutory bodies under its act or memorandum of association governing the institution for offering the program in online learning mode. That condition is one. A copy of such application along with the PPR should be displayed on the website of the higher education institutions by way of self-disclosure. If you want to run this online course, use your website, upload on your website whatever the statutory body that has approved your course under that act. You can upload that information also, so that the stakeholders and the public will come to know that you are open, you are transparent, and you are having all the requirements to run that online course. That the application is accompanied by evidence of having prepared the e-learning materials required for the programs of study, which is duly approved by the statutory bodies of higher education institutions, empowered to decide on academic matters. Therefore, the statutory body which has been there to approve the academic programs, whatever you are running, you should have taken the approval from them regarding the different types of e-learning materials that you have prepared, which are necessary to run this online course, and you have to upload some of these things on your website, so that it will be easy for other the public people also to know that you are equipped to run the online courses properly. The third one is with respect to the model curriculum that has been developed for the management programs. Therefore, exclusively to make the management programs a quality-based programs, the model curriculum also has been prepared. Because of the influence of technology, the business world has expanded significantly in the past few decades. The pace at which the present technology has evolved is unheard and unseen. The fourth industrial revolution is bringing advanced robotics, autonomous transport, artificial intelligence and machine learning, advanced materials and biotechnology. These are some of the prominent areas which have influenced and brought a lot of significant changes. For example, artificial intelligence will almost automate some jobs, particularly those that rely on assembly lines or data collection. The mobile internet and cloud technology are already impacting the business world to a larger extent. What is certain is that the future managers will need to align their skill set to keep pace in this volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This is what we call it as the VUCA world. VUCA world refers to too much of volatility is there in this world, uncertainty is there in this world, complexity is there in this world, ambiguity is there. That's why they use the word VUCA world. And in order to meet the challenge of this, all those who are getting training under management course and all those who are going to call themselves as managers, they have to equip themselves to meet these challenges. It is therefore obligatory for management education to meet the challenges of rapid changing times and technologies. The Government of India and AICTE has worked on a mission mode to improve the quality of management education in the country, and it has published the model curriculum for management studies. I think this is the background. Government of India has taken a lot of initiative, and AICTE is also has taken a lot of initiative. Therefore, they have come out on a mission mode, and the model curriculum and people can use this curriculum and they can implement and they can run the course and make the people, those who are going to come out of the management program, they can equip themselves with some of the latest knowledge, skills necessary to meet the challenges of this VUCA world. I have also mentioned the source here. Then the fourth one is the skill development. Friends, as you know, skill component is very essential and no one can deny upon. And moreover, earlier also we have given emphasis upon the skill component. But there is a paradigm shift. More emphasis is there. As we are talking about the job-related skills, mere theory will not work and skill will work. In most of the places, it is a skill that takes the things forward. It is a different types of skills which makes the quality of the product to be accepted in the global market. Therefore, there is a need to emphasize upon the skills. Therefore, skill development, it is an initiative of the Government of India to launch the skill development program to empower the youth of the country with skill sets that make them more employable and more productive in their work environment. Therefore, our Z generation learners to be empowered with lot of employable skills. Without these employable skills, the employment becomes very difficult for our youths. Therefore, realizing this, the Government of India has taken a lot of initiative. Then Sri Narendra Modi, Honorable Prime Minister of India, is the chairman for the National Skill Mission, and I think it has been started with lot of enthusiasm. The Union Cabinet on 1st July 2015 approved the National Skill Development Mission, and it is officially launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India on 15th July 2015 on the occasion of World Youth Skills Day. That was the day on which this scheme was released. The mission has been developed so to create convergence across sectors and states in terms of skill training activities, further to achieve the vision of Skilled India. Skilled India is the slogan. The National Skill Development Mission would not only consolidate and coordinate skilling efforts, but also expedite decision making across sectors to achieve skilling at scale with speed and standards. It will be implemented through a streamlined institutional mechanism driven by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Therefore, MSDE has given a lot of responsibility. They have to coordinate with the state governments. They have to coordinate with the higher education institutions, and thereby whatever the objectives with which the scheme has been introduced, it can be achieved effectively. Now the next one is Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog. Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog is another initiative. It is a National Education Commission that was formed as the initiative of Government of India. This was headed by the Prime Minister and is going to be custodian of the vision of education in India. I think you can just refer to the source regarding Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, and you will come to know the structure of this commission or this Ayog, the objectives of this Ayog, and how exactly this Ayog is functioning. You will try to know, and I have just given a small introduction about this. Technology and innovation is another important innovation. In 1971, establishment of Department of Science and Technology to promote basic research funding schemes through Science and Engineering Research Board. It is called SERB, Science and Engineering Research Board. And because of the support of this board, there was the establishment of Department of Science and Technology, and offer in-house programs, autonomous institutions, and the DST were set up. Some of you are familiar, like Department of Science and Technology, so it was established. Autonomous institutions were also established, and because this SERB, I think many higher education institutions used to get lot of funds, lot of support to take up research activities. Then in 2000, National Innovation Foundation was set up to fund the grassroots innovations. So for all those who are coming out with lot of innovations, I think our students are extremely good. We have to provide conducive atmosphere for them. We have to encourage them. We have to nurture their talents. We have to nourish their talents. The moment when you do, automatically innovations will come. According to me, innovation can happen by giving lot of freedom to the innovators, by giving lot of support, including the finance to the innovators. Then you will see the outcome of innovations. That's why in 2000, a little more initiative and emphasis was given. Then later in 2003, Science and Technology Policy brought together science and technology. In 2013, during this period, the policy on science, technology and innovation was formulated. Therefore, specific policy, specific rules and regulations related to science, related to technology, and related to the different types of researches which undergo in the name of science and technology were also defined and formulated well. In 2016, Atal Innovation Mission was launched with lot of specific objectives, once again to nurture innovation. The impact of technology and innovation. India, a major destination for outsourced R&D activities. At present, we have more than 1,100 R&D centers set up by multinational companies such as IBM, Google, etc., Microsoft, Intel, Lupin, Vocart. Therefore, R&D play a very, very important role. Some of you are very familiar in the industrial sector, this is a common word. Research and development. Similarly, in the area of multinational companies, they have given lot of emphasis upon the research and development. And remember, they are all doing the functional research based upon the felt need. In an industrial setup, any product that is coming up, there is a team that is there to find out the quality of that particular product, defects of that particular product. In case any kind of defect is there, they are trying to overcome that defect in that particular product. They look from a scientific angle. They apply the scientific principles and scientific methodology. They look from the research perspective. That is why within a short period of time, they are going to overcome the defect that is present in it. That is why in the global market, you see lot of products with lot of quality concern. To give a very simple humorous example, the earlier switch what we have used for our electricity, that on and off switch, positions, two positions, one position to on, another position to make it off. Then innovation started, only one button switch. It functions in two ways for both as well as on as well as off. Then the durability, after 200 pressing, 300 pressing, it used to not to be intact. Whereas our modern technology and our modern quality control mechanisms, millions of times if you press, nothing will happen. To that extent, they have maintained the quality. Even the mouse, for example, now, how many times you can click, 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 click? Have you ever come across any mouse which is not intact after clicking for maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 times? This is an example to say that the research and development unit, they are all very strong, they are functional, and they are based upon the felt need. Because as I mentioned earlier, any kind of quality improvement in industry means it solves many kinds of problems, and at the same time it brings lot of money to the industry. That's why they have taken care, and R&D is doing very well. They have developed more than 1,100 R&D centers. These R&D centers cover areas including information, communication technologies, biotechnology, aerospace, automotive, chemicals, materials technology. I think some of these areas also have been taken under priority under R&D unit. India's relatively strong intellectual property regime will facilitate its emergency as a major R&D center. even intellectual property right, you are all very familiar, and the patent policies, all these things are related with the research and development. Now we are doing very well, and especially in the area of multinational companies, their achievement is very great. Now the next initiative is regarding futuristic plans in the area of technology. India should be among the top 50 countries in the global innovation, maybe within 25 years. And now they are saying within 7 years, we should be top 25. Therefore, we have to compete with the countries which are known for their innovations. Japan may be known for innovations, South Korea, maybe China. I think the USA, there are many countries. They are on the top because of their innovations, because every year they keep on innovating. They say innovation is part of their life. Innovation speaks their existence. Innovation speaks that they are competing with the other countries. Without innovations, they may say they are not going to compete. They may not be able to accept the challenges. That is how they have taken up. 10 of our scientific research institutions should be amongst the top 100 in the world. I think we are visualizing. We want higher education institutions to visualize like this, dream about this, because as Abdul Kalam ji says, unless we dream, we may not get into a reality one day. It was better to think, better to dream, but dream with the intention of converting the dream into a reality. I think we have to do. These are our expectations. India should aim to spend at least 2% of gross domestic product on R&D with equal contributions from the public and private sector. Therefore, we believe in PPP, private and public partnership, that will really help, that will make us our economy to a greater extent it can grow. And at the same time, lot of skill development activities and a lot of projects can also be taken in the name of this. Various schemes have been launched to attract, nurture and retain young researchers and women scientists in the field of scientific research. In this direction, India has become a major destination for outsourced R&D activities. I think a new initiative, futuristic plans are extremely good, and they are making some of the universities to become the innovative universities. Like we have got academic universities, we have got research universities. In the same way, why not innovative universities, giving lot of facilities and funds for them, and let them dream, let them think, and let them act only in the name of innovations. I think that is also possible, and the government of India is working in this direction. And then there are certain specific schemes also have been introduced. Everywhere we say girls' education is important. I think simply talking is of no use. We have to make provisions, and unless there is some provision, I think people cannot take it further. That is why we have got a lot of provisions. And here I am going to refer to the education for girls under that Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Abhiyan, in order to roll out and enhance the sex ratio and the status of the girl education. This scheme, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Abhiyan, has come. The Ministry of Women and Child Development has supported this scheme. The Department of School Education and Literacy to implement the scheme in 100 districts of the country. They have planned to implement. Already implementation is over, I think. In addition to this, an award is being instituted from the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Abhiyan for school management committees which achieve 100% transition of girls at different levels of education. For any institution gives 100% education for the girls, I think they also will be rewarded substantially. Then Swachh Vidyalaya, another important concept. The department is committed to the provision of a functional girls' toilet. Every school should have a girls' toilet, which is Swachh toilet, very clean, and that should be a very unique feature of every girls' school or girls' institution. A specific Swachh Vidyalaya campaign has been taken. it has been taken up to ensure that a functional toilet is available at every school. I think, friends, some of you know that even in the rural side, even some of the government colleges, they may not be having good toilet facilities, water facilities. That's why when the accrediting agencies, when they go, they also visit this to ascertain whether they have taken care of these fundamental, very essential requirements of higher education institutions. I think these two schemes have been introduced in that direction. Now, education for girls under that, UDAN is an initiative of the Central Board of Secondary Education CBSE scheme, and to enable disadvantaged girl students and other students from SC/ST and minorities to transit from school to post-school professional education, especially in science and mathematics. Therefore, they want to encourage even the rural girl students to take up science, take up mathematics. Apart from taking only the social science courses, they also may be having a lot of potential, a lot of aptitude in the area of science, in the area of mathematics, and to encourage them, they are allowing the students to undergo some kind of transition from school education to higher education. And this will be done by enriching and supplementing teaching and learning of science and mathematics at the seniors level, CBSE level, and encourage them to go to the higher level. I think this UDAN scheme will give them a lot of support by means of which they can pursue their higher education, especially in the area of science and mathematics. Then under the Swami Vivekananda Single Girl Child Scholarship for Research in Social Science, they want to encourage. This scheme has been introduced, and 300 scholars would be provided the following provisions. They are saying for each PhD scholar will be given 25,000 rupees per month for initial 2 years and 28,000 rupees per month for the remaining tenure. Similarly, to meet the contingency expenditure, they will be given 10,000 per month for initial 2 years and 20,500 per month for remaining tenure. Sorry, per annually 10,000. Sorry, and annually 20,500 they are giving, but the scholarship what they are giving is for per month only. I think see the encouragement that has been given, and why I am speaking about these schemes, because even many faculty members may not be aware of. When we are not aware of, if some student will come and ask about this scheme, how can we help them? So better to know, better to be aware of. Similarly, unless the students are aware, they may not be able to get the benefit. Therefore, we have to disseminate this information to our students. Put the information on the institutional website, instruct the students to refer, let them be familiar, and let them apply and get. Because lot of schemes are there, and many people also have commented that many schemes have not reached the target group. It has not reached because of various reasons. Now, Pragati, it is an initiative of AICTE for providing assistance for girls' advancement in technical education. The scheme envisages selection of one girl per family where family income is less than 6 lakhs per annum. Therefore, in a family, if there are 2 or 3 girls, if their family income is 6 lakhs per annum, then one girl will be encouraged to take up and go for higher education, preferably the technical education. The scheme is to be implemented by the authorized admission center of respective state governments. 4,000 girls are expected to get benefit out of the scholarship facilities, and the scholarship amount is rupees 30,000 or tuition fees whichever is less, or actual whichever is less, and rupees 2,000 per month for 10 months as contingency allowance. I think girls should know, and those who are running the girls' education, I hope you are familiar and you have taken the benefit, and you are encouraging the students also to get this benefit. Now, Saksham, this is another important scheme for under the special needs. Scholarship for differently abled children. AICTE has awarded 1,000 scholarships per annum to differently abled students to pursue technical education based on merit in the qualifying examination to pursue technical education. The scholarship amount would be rupees 30,000 or tuition fees are actual, whichever is less, and rupees 2,000. Now, friends, this is very important. Earlier there was a slogan, I do not know how many of you are familiar. 20 or 30 years back, the physically abled or physically challenged people, whenever they were passing through, people used to show simply sympathy, lip sympathy they were showing. Oh, these students are not going and they are not encouraged to go for college education, etc., etc. I think in a sympathetical way, people were talking, but not with any kind of empathy. Now there is a paradigm shift from sympathy to the empathy. Then from empathy to the action level that they have gone. See the initiative taken by AICTE. Physically challenged, no doubt, but God has given intelligence for them, concentration for them, and they can be on their own independently. They did not burden to anybody. Therefore, why not? If they are coming to the general scheme, why can't they come for the technical scheme? I think hats off to the AICTE initiative, encouraging the students to come for getting the benefit, and especially for the physically disabled children. Now, the central government initiative towards teaching, learning is equally important, and towards teaching, because I also believe if the quality of education should be good, means quality of teaching should be good. Quality of teaching and quality of education will go together. Therefore, it is easy to say about the quality of teaching. Teaching should be good. I am a professor from the field of education. We speak various kinds of pedagogical aspects, andragogical aspects, like the child-centered approach, learner-centered approach. Like that we speak technology-based approach. We speak, but unless we put it into action, put it into practice, I think we may not be able to see the quality in terms of teaching. Therefore, in this connection, ever since the draft education policy has been introduced, the Union HRD Minister has been working over improving the education system in the country. On June 24 to 19, during a Lok Sabha session, Union HRD Minister Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji introduced a number of reforms to improve teaching sector in the country. I think they said teaching should be improved. How? Subject-wise learning. In order to focus and monitor quality education, the central rules to the right of children to free and compulsory education was introduced in 2009. Every child should be given access to free education up to some level, and the education should be made compulsory. 2009 have been amended by including class-wise and subject-wise learning outcomes as references. The learning outcomes for each class is languages, mathematics, environmental studies, science and social science, up to the elementary stage, and higher level they have emphasized upon the different subjects also. Therefore, subject-wise learning is equally important, and every teacher should be good in teaching every subject, so also the learner. Therefore, subject-wise learning should be encouraged. The second one is called the National Achievement Survey. Third one is called minimum qualification of teachers. Therefore, I think it is very much necessary to conduct a survey to know. It is very much necessary to select the teachers for teaching, and teachers can be selected based upon their intelligence. Teachers can be selected based upon their aptitude towards teaching, and teachers can be selected based upon conducting a test which measures both the scholastic achievement as well as their mental abilities, which in turn speaks about their intelligence. I think there are different schemes which are going on. The UGC and AICTE have taken up many initiatives to improve teaching quality in higher education. On 31st of December 2018, government is serious about improving the quality in teaching in higher education. In this regard, University Grants Commission and All India Council for Technical Education have taken various initiatives, and the following are some of them. The number one is called Diksha. This is a platform for teachers which enable capacity building of all categories of teachers. It helps over 50 lakh teachers to improve. I think you are also familiar already. UGC HRD centers are there, Human Resource Development Centers in university. Some of the universities have got this center, and they are conducting lot of training programs, inviting the in-service teachers and empowering and enriching them. Similarly, the Diksha scheme, enabling in the name of capacity building. Then teachers upload their own material on the portal, which also offer online courses, allow sharing of best content, monitor progress, and introduce the energized textbooks with QR code. I think a lot of facilities are there. I hope you will kindly go through the Diksha, the website of the All India Council for Technical Education, and you will get little more information about this. Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, TE or TE-QUIP. It is a quality improvement program for technical education in phase 3, hill states of J&K, Himachal and Uttarakhand, and some of the 8 northern states, northern east region, then Andaman and Nicobar, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Odisha, Jharkhand, Assam. I think they have got rupees 2,600 crores sanctioned, wherein they wanted to equip the teachers, especially with respect to the teachers who are in the technical education field. This ensures bridging the regional gaps in technical education, because many will say, sir, rural side, hilly region, they are in the technical education, but facilities are not there. How do we expect them to provide quality education in the field of technical education? Therefore, they said, no. If the city people are having the specialized knowledge, specialized skill, we will equip the rural people, hillside people who are there in the hilly region also will be equipped. Like that, 2,600 crore grants was given, and the main intention is to equip the teachers to be more comfortable in teaching the technical education, especially those who are teaching for the engineering students. I think around 1 lakh students get quality education through this scheme. Global Initiative Academic Network, or GION. GION is another scheme. Under GION, 700 professors from 58 countries have so far conducted about 1,120 courses in specialized topics for students in Indian higher education institutions. More than 40,000 students and associate Indian faculty has benefited. I think GION is also a very nice scheme, and the students can expose to, faculty members can expose to the professors who were very well specialized in some of the important areas, thrust areas which are very much prominent in the area of science and technology. Therefore, they can be invited in that particular scheme, and our staff members, students can be benefited with this. Now, Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission for Teachers Training Program. Under this scheme, in-service training programs for more than 1 lakh college and university teachers have been organized. I am happy, at least from the past 10 to 15 years, even for the college faculty members, even for the university faculty members, even for the medical as well as engineering faculty members, pedagogical trainings are given. This is a good sign, because all those who wants to become a teacher or teachers at the school level, they undergo training in the name of B.Ed, the M.Ed, and with that they come. But in higher education, I think we are not taking the trained teachers. One method is introduce a short-term course of 6 months in the area of psychology, administration, and pedagogy, and train them, give them a certificate, and then you can take them. But I'm happy even at the PU level, even with MSc or MEA, MCOM, they are expected to do the B.Ed, and then they can become effective teachers. Like that, in some governments, lot of incentive schemes were given to the teachers teaching at the PU level to undergo B.Ed training. Similarly, higher level it should happen. It is not happening. But now, from the past 15-20 years, through different kinds of schemes, we are encouraging and many faculty members have been trained, and this is one scheme like Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission for Teachers Training. Similarly, inter-university centers have been established to improve the standards of higher education and research. UGC established inter-university centers for teacher education within the university system under class 12cc. Therefore, we have got inter-university centers. In Mysore also we have got one center, inter-university center attached to the Regional College of Education, and they invite the teacher educators from different teacher education institutions giving training for them. I think there are a lot of schemes under that. Then how many hours of training program and all the details are there, you can go through it. Annual refresher program in teaching. Arpit is one prominent name that they have given for this kind of training. 40 hours of program with 20 hours of video content offered in a highly flexible format which can be done at one's own pace and time. Therefore, training can be given, videos are there, and the timing aspect, the learner or the faculty member has got freedom to learn on his own. That freedom is also there under these inter-university centers. I think this is a beautiful initiative. I have come across how exactly these things are useful. Now, friends, the next one is about a B.Ed degree structure, another important initiative taken by the government and through regulatory bodies like NCTE. A 4-year B.Ed integrated course was introduced to bring about qualitative improvement in teacher education. We say teaching is a profession. Now, I think all those who have completed 3 years of degree, they are supposed to take up 2 years of B.Ed. With that, they are eligible to become teachers, and they can go as a school teachers with the 2 years of training. Then experts, they thought that, I think since it is a professional course, 2 years is not sufficient. Thank God, earlier we had 1 year B.Ed program. I taught the students with this 1 year. I taught the students with 2 years also. With 1 year, how do you make a person to become a professional teacher? Then increase it to 2 years. Now they are saying, no, we increase it to 4 years so that after PUC, students can come and 4 years integrated courses can be encouraged in degree colleges wherever they are running the degree courses. They can have an integrated course, 4 years B.Ed. Like that, it has been introduced in June 31st, 2019, and the program is going on. The model curriculum was also prepared for this course, which includes crucial aspects like gender, inclusive education, ICT. They have revamped and restructured the curriculum. I am happy the present 4 years curriculum is far better compared to the earlier one because they have given a lot of emphasis upon the latest thrust areas, including health and sanitation. Now, innovations in classrooms. I think this is also a very interesting scheme. The government of India has launched Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan, a program that was launched in 2015 to motivate and engage children of the age group of 6 to 18 years. 6 to 18 years they want to encourage, because students after 11 plus, they are entering into post-adolescent and then to the adult stage. Therefore, between 6 to 18 is an important stage, and we have to equip them because physical development is happening, mental development, social development. Therefore, there is a need to train the students of this age group in a different way, and especially with respect to science, mathematics, and technology. Therefore, the scheme was introduced. In order to support the states and union territories on early grade reading, writing, and comprehension, and early mathematics program through a sub-programs in foundational years of schooling, the government of India has launched what we call that Bade Bharat scheme, that is PBB, Bade Bharat scheme. I think that is a nice scheme because the students, most of the students at the school level, depending upon their background, most of them, in my opinion, they find the English language learning is little difficult. Next comes the mathematics, which is a little bit difficult. Therefore, then comes the science. Unless we give some special attention to these students and their needs, it may not be possible for many students to be motivated to take up science and mathematics. As you know, in the whole globe, the trend and the demand for science and mathematics education is less, and demand for social science, demand for commerce management, demand for computer based courses are more, but not to these courses as I mentioned, like pure basic science courses. Therefore, why can't we encourage them when they are quite young? That's why the scheme has been introduced. Then interactive content for students. A single point repository of e-resources called Pathshala containing NCERT textbooks and various other learning resources has been developed. I think NCERT has taken a lot of initiative in the name of e-Pathshala, wherein lot of e-learning materials have been developed. They are based upon the SLM principles, self-learning principles. They are based upon the modular principles, so that any learner can read and understand and he can test himself. I think that is a beautiful scheme. Now, similar to the general MOOC course, massive open online courses or MOOCs courses, MHRD has launched a massive open online course platform, popularly known as SWAYAM, that is called Study Webs of Active Learning for Young Aspiring Minds. That is the expansion of SWAYAM. It was introduced in 2017. This portal is offering various online courses for school education and higher education too. NCERT is developing a course modules for massive open online courses. I think they are good. Students between the age group of 9 and 12, they can participate. It is a very interesting scheme. And like our elders, we are asking them to take up courses through edX, through Coursera, through the general MOOCs. Like that, they have introduced the scheme. It is working very well. And many students are happy, and in addition to their usual learning, they can take up some of these courses. Within a short period, they can have double advantage of doing 2 courses, 3 courses and get the benefit. Now, digital initiatives by government on India, as I mentioned, a program initiated for utilization of satellite communication technologies for transmission of educational e-contents to 32 national channels. Friend, this is very, very important. Hats off and thanks to our government, because they have introduced 32 national channels through which many programs can be organized. And the Central Institute of Educational Technology, or CIET, that is an NCERT, is a national coordinator for one DTH TV channel, especially for the school level, that is called Kishore Manch, another important program. And the details are there. I think you can go, you can get a lot of information. About the SWAYAM also already I have mentioned. It is an indigenous IT massive open and online course platform for providing best quality education that can be assessed by anyone, anytime and anywhere. Quality is also very good through this SWAYAM program. The concept of massive open online courses involves online delivery of interactive learning content. It is an interactive learning. Students can interact and they can learn. It is not a one-way learning. I think that information about SWAYAM. Similarly, SWAYAM Prabha, I said, it is a 32 educational DTH channels that has been consumed as the project for telecasting high quality educational programs through 32 DTH. I think the quality of the programs is good. So many channels are there. I think the programs, plenty of programs are going on. You can just go through, contact the people and get a lot of benefits about this. The next one is called National Academic Depository, or it is also called NAD. It is an initiative of Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, to facilitate digital issuance, storage, access and verification of academic awards issued by academic institutions. NAD is unique, innovative and progressive initiative under Digital India theme towards achieving digital enablement of the educational records. Therefore, it is a beautiful place, beautiful depository where the educational records can be stored, and wherever we want we can utilize and we can download and utilize these informations. I think a lot of advantages still Many people are asking what is this under the Digital India scheme. This is working very well, and already they have started storing a lot of documents there. National Digital Library, this is important. It is a project with the title Development of National Digital Library of India towards building a national asset. It has been sanctioned to IIT Kharagpur under NMEICT by MHRD. So Kharagpur has taken, IIT of Kharagpur has been given the responsibility for this National Digital Library. National or NDL in India aims to collect, preserve, and disseminate the entire intellectual output of our country and provide online access from school level to postgraduate level. Here, what a beautiful scheme. If every information is collected, it is stored, disseminated, and made available easily, starting from school level to the postgraduate level. I think many were just saying we are spending a lot of time for purchasing e-journals and purchasing the other kinds of journals. I think this NDL, this schemes, it helps, it motivates, reduces the cost, and many people can get the advantage. I think they have mentioned the project aims to develop overall framework to collect large number of e-contents for school, design and development of OAR PMH server for metadata harvesting. We can design and development how the data of data can be harvested, indexed properly, serve as a pan-India virtual teaching learning evaluation knowledge platform. I think for teaching, for learning, for evaluation, it will be a very good knowledge platform. And for key national assets, collect resources from other ministries such as Ministry of Culture. I think interdisciplinary. It has got collaboration. It can, and it has got collaboration with the other Ministry of Culture, Health, Rural Development. They also can share the information. In that, it is a very good database, a digital database, which can be used very effectively. eShodh Sindhu, through the eShodh Sindhu initiative, there are more than 15,000 international electronic journals and e-books are made available to all the higher education institutions. What a beautiful concept. What a beautiful idea. Thanks to those people who have come up with this concept. Therefore, all over the globe, I think they have collected more than 15,000 international electronic journals and e-books, and they are available for higher education institutions. This allows access to the best education resources in the world using digital mode. The InflibNet Gandhinagar, Gujarat is implementing the scheme. The InflibNet is doing very well, and we are also having collaboration with InflibNet. Other people are also having collaboration with InflibNet. They can access to all these journals, get benefit. Thereby, you can empower your faculty members as well as your students. Virtual labs. I think this concept is a little bit new for us, but in Western countries, not so new. It has been there. Due to physical distances and also due to the lack of resources, many were unable to perform experiments, especially when they involve sophisticated instruments. Also, good teachers are always a scarce resources. Web-based and video-based courses addresses the issue of teaching to some extent, conducting joint experiments by two participating institutions and also sharing costly resources. I think this concept is very good. In the name of virtual lab, students can acquaint themselves with the procedures. There are the manuals which are also there, gives a lot of tips regarding how the experimentation can be conducted. They can be familiar with the different types of gadgets, equipments, and at the same time, procedural aspects can also be understood very well. It saves a lot of money. It gives a lot of confidence. And at the same time, the virtual labs will give the students an idea to expose themselves to different types of experimentations. Then Talk to a Teacher is another important project. These are developed by IIT Bombay. I think, see, where there is a will, there is a way. Different people, when they were asked to contribute something in the name of innovation, they have come up. IIT Kharagpur, for example, then the IIT Bombay. It is an initiative of the National Mission on Education through ICT funded by MHRD to provide free access to a few selected graduate and postgraduate courses taught IIT Bombay. Therefore, for selected students, selected postgraduate students, especially in Bombay, they have come out with this project, Talk to Your Teacher. It uses a view collaboration tool developed by Amrita University for providing virtual classrooms to the faculty across the country. Here, students can meet their teachers virtually and they can ask questions, clarify, interact with them with a lot of facilities. eAcharya is another important official repository of NMEICT, which I mentioned already, which is also called Technically Integrated Co-Content Portal of NMEICT. E-content and all content produced under NMEICT is being put at this repository. Therefore, NMEICT, this organization, whatever the content that they have developed, e-content or videos, all this it has been reposited and deposited there at InfibNet Center, Gandhinagar. So to apply basic tenets of preservation for digital content. Therefore, they also supplement with InfibNet. They'll be just sharing. All the project investigators awarded development of e-content under the NMEICT have been requested to ensure the deliverables are placed at the earliest in the integrated portal. Therefore, they have got their own portal. The content is placed, e-content is placed, and it is made available. And the eAcharya is a repository, and both shall ensure the content on HDD to the eAcharya repository. That all the content, including ebooks, are made available. Therefore, ebooks, e-journals, everything is made available, and they use this HDD. Then, because of the quality based upon the high density, it will be good, and they can access and they can get the benefit. eKalpa is another initiative of MHRD, named as eKalpa to create a digital learning environment for design in India, and has successfully demonstrated the achievement of the following project objectives through the completion of its phase 1 project. eKalpa, Kalpana, Kalpa, eKalpa, that is a beautiful concept. And the purpose of is to design a digital learning environment for design in India. Digital online content for learning design with e-learning programs on design. Digital design resources database including the craft sector. Social networking for higher learning with collaborative learning. Then the design inputs for products of National Mission in Higher Education. I think you have to go through it. Unless you go through it, it may not be possible. Go through it, then discuss with the people and try to contact all those who are developed and using this eKalpa, so that they will direct you how best you can get the help and benefit in using the same thing. On December 2015, the content of eKalpa website named D-Source includes 160 courses. Now a little elaboration. What exactly eKalpa contains? It contains 160 courses on design learning in different domains, more than 400 resources in the form of fine examples of designs, 110 case studies of design projects, 50 video lectures, and then 600 examples of a visual gallery which has documented works of the rich tradition of art and design. I think they have given all these information what exactly it contains. Therefore, I wish, after listening to my talk, my sincere request would be, you have to go through most of these sources, acquaint, get the printout, keep the printout with you, contact the people, and accordingly you can try to equip. Campus connectivity is another important aspect. This is a special scheme in which establishment of 1 Gbps connectivity to universities and fundamental kbps broadband connectivity to colleges have been provisioned under this NMEICT. A total of 600 universities have been covered and connected through 1 Gbps optical fiber. Therefore, so many universities are connected through this. You can interact with them. They have given some technical details also in terms of that Mbps. On the lines of Digital India initiative of the PMO, the MHRD has decided that the campuses of universities, they can also be connected through that Wi-Fi connection. One campus to the other campus, you can connect, you can interact, you can access the information. Already all the IITs, IMS and NITs have established Wi-Fi connections. The process of laying the optical fiber is going on, and already it has been connected in most of the places, and they are getting the connections, the Wi-Fi connections to the optical fiber and getting the benefit. Ask a Question is a unique platform through which students from science and technology, because many students will be having a lot of questions, they hesitate to ask. But thank God Google is there, they can go, they can search a little bit of Wikipedia. Apart from that, they would be very happy to get from the right source, like their own teachers teaching the subject. For that, a unique platform through which students from science and engineering colleges all over India can ask questions, and faculty from IIT Bombay answer those questions. They are given specific timings, and the students can ask, and immediately they get the answers for their questions. I think what a beautiful concept, asking a question. The free and open source software for education, it is called FOSSEE. This project was sanctioned to IIT Bombay, which has been promoting the use of open source software in education institutions. They have given this HTTP ID. It does through institutional materials such as spoken tutorials, documentation such as textbook, companions, awareness programs such as conferences, training workshops, and internship programs. Textbook Companion is a collection of code for solved examples of standard textbooks. About 2,000 college students and teachers have participated in this activity, and close to 1,000 TBCS. TBCS means textbook companions have been created in Scilab and Python alone. I think some technical information is there. Therefore, kindly refer to the FOSSEE, refer to that URL, and try to equip yourselves with that. In continuation of that, Open FOAM, an alternative to the proprietary software suitably fluent for computational fluid dynamics. I think pertaining to the different branches, different subject that they are given, kindly refer to that and get some information. eVidwan, this is another initiative. This is an initiative undertaken by the Information and Library Network, InflibNet, and it is called Vidwan, Expert Database and a National Researchers Network, with the financial support from the NMEICT. Therefore, they got the financial assistance. InflibNet has taken initiative. And what are the objectives mean that they are given? Collect academic and research profiles of scientists, faculty and research scientists working in leading and academic and RD organizations. Therefore, informations can be collected. Asking a professor, what is your area? What is that you are doing? Like that, they can ask and collect their information. Quickly and conveniently provide information about experts to peers, students. Therefore, it is a database where you can collect it and keep it. Plus, whatever you have collected, you can disseminate. Establish communication directly with the experts who possess expertise needed by research scholars. Identify peer reviewers for review of articles. Therefore, this source also will help you. A list of reviewers can be there depending upon the type of journals in which you want them to be reviewers. We can refer. The policy makers, and here they have given as on 31st December 2015, the database that contains more than 17,500 profiles are there. Like ResearchGate, you are familiar, similar to that. You can go. 17,500 files are available, profiles of experts. 2,000 leading academic institutions, information, universities. I think this is a beautiful concept that one you can go through it. Then Central Cloud Infrastructure is a project given to IIT Delhi by the MHRD under NMEICT with the intention to set up a robust 24/7 backed data center, and the activities have been put up at NIC/NKN data center, and the cloud is called Badal. The IIT Delhi cloud is hosting e-content and video content in Acharya. I think I would appreciate for some of these things if we can contact professors from the engineering background, preferably computer science background, or professors who are working in IIT Delhi, Bombay. I think you can contact. They will help you little more in details about what is the scheme, how best it can be utilized. Now, another scheme is known as the Paramarsh scheme. The Commission in its 532nd meeting held on 24/5/2018 approved the objective set for improving the quality in higher education institutions. It is expected that all higher education shall strive to achieve these objectives, of which one of them is as follows. Every institution shall get National Accreditation and Assessment Council's accreditation with a minimum score of 2.5 by 2020. See, this is a project. We are accrediting agency, as all of you know, and 25 years of experience it has got. In spite of it, many people are not able to come for accreditation. The Paramarsh scheme has been introduced in order to provide an opportunity for the institutions which have got higher grade to go handhold, to do handhold exercise and handhold support in inviting the institutions which have got the scores, accreditation scores less than 2.5, encouraging them in order to encourage those who are very good, achieved greater grade, to help those who have not got that grade. I think that is the main philosophy of this Paramarsh scheme that has been introduced recently. And mentoring institutions will take a role of helping them. And mentee institutions are those which are going to these institutions to get help. If an institution has got A+ grade or A++ grade, they can apply for this Paramarsh scheme and get some financial help from the government, UGC, and then they can invite the mentee institutions and they can train them. Therefore, mentoring institutions will facilitate the following: training of faculty and staff for proper processes, documentations, presentations, sharing of knowledge, information, and resources, opportunities for research and collaboration, faculty development, guidance, and encouragement. In that way, I think many aspects have been given here. I request you to kind of go for that Paramarsh scheme. Then refer to the objectives, refer to the highlights, and refer to the procedural aspect that they have given. You will be able to get an idea. Here I have given all these aspects there. Because of paucity of time, I may not be able to go. The main objective of the scheme is to enhance the overall quality of the mentee institutions. If there is a government institution close by, if my institution is a private one which has got good grade, I can invite that government institution as a mentee, and I can be a mentor for that, and I can just help them. That's what that I mentioned here. Mentoring the non-accredited higher education institutions. If they have not been accredited, also we can invite. Or if they have been accredited, wanted to go for a higher next cycle, you can encourage them. Institution to enable them to get accredited. The scheme will be operationalized through a hub and spoke technique or hub and spoke model, where in the mentor institution called the hub is centralized and will have the responsibility of guiding the mentee institutions to the secondary branches. That's why mentee institution is also called the spoke and the mentor is called the hub. I think in that way, hub and spoke model that they have given, and based upon that, I think you can go it. Similarly, to encourage Northeast region, some schemes like Ishan Uday, they have given. Through that scheme, they are encouraging scholarship facilities to the students, and also providing the monthly scholarship facilities so that the students can come forward and they can continue their higher education. That scheme is there. Ishan Vikas is once again for that Northeast region. It is there. It is a comprehensive plan to bring selected students from the school and college levels from the Northeast states into close contact with IITs, NITs. I think this is a beautiful scheme. Northeast region access to higher education may be limited. It is most of the places are hilly regions, like they must not be able to get an opportunity to see the higher education institutions like IIT or NITs. And through this Ishan Vikas, they provide an opportunity for them to go and visit. That's what they have given. Then ICT enabled enhancement of learning opportunities. I think a strengthening of ICT government has taken, and they also have given the what we call that UGC mandate for technical education. If you can read, you will be getting an idea. Now, friends, this is what I wanted to just share. Maybe I was little fast because I had the anxiety of completing the different initiatives taken by different agencies. That's why I must have gone little more bit in faster speed. Excuse me for the same thing. Now I think, as I mentioned, you have heard about all these schemes. What you have to do is, as I said, try to equip a little more and have a first-hand knowledge about these initiatives or these schemes once again. Acquire the true knowledge, first-hand information. Second level, try to disseminate among your faculty members. Let everyone in the faculty knows about the different types of schemes introduced by the central government, UGC, AICTE. Apart from that, there are some initiatives taken by your own state, and try to find out the state initiatives. Then try to see how best you can prepare an action plan, and so that through an action plan it is possible for you to take up some of these programs into action and provide evidences that you have utilized these schemes. You have utilized the initiatives taken by these agencies at different levels for different programs like technical education, general education, research area, like that. Then have a database or documentation, which is very, very important. Have a documentation how you have utilized and how you got benefit from these schemes. Then whenever an accrediting agency is coming, try to show these documents, so that I think there will be a kind of appreciation, and which may also result in boosting little bit of marks in the accreditation process. Therefore, kindly keep this, and thanks to the initiative shown by the government of India, state governments, technical universities, technical colleges, INFLIBNET, UGC, and all other agencies which are there, which are responsible, which have got that kind of futuristic plan, and they are moving forward. And kindly see what best can be done in order to enhance. Are there any other areas in which you want the intervention of the government, so that some more initiatives can be taken up in order to help the students? You are the people who are running the show. You have to pinpoint the same thing and ultimately bring it to the concerned people, so that in those areas little more work can happen, and ultimately our enrollment rates for higher education will increase, lead to a better job employment opportunities, and at the same time to have healthy competitions, keeping the global standard in mind. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you. Hello, Habib.
Yes, sir.
I think I've just completed this now. And are there any questions? Just you can find out. You can read the questions.
One question is there, sir.
Yeah. Please ask me.
Is there any scheme for international college teachers extension program by UGC?
Repeat the question. Is there any?
Is there any scheme for international college teachers extension program by UGC?
Oh, definitely. I told no. Now UGC, earlier we had academic staff college. Now they have renamed as HRDC, Human Resource Development Centers. Like in Mysore we have got one, in Bangalore we have got one. Like that there are different centers sponsored by the UGC. Financial assistance is also given to them. They are inviting and they are conducting the courses in the name of extension activities or in the name of in-service training programs. Usually they call it as an in-service training programs. College teachers can go, university teachers can go. They can participate in the programs. Some of them in the name of refresher courses. Some of them may be in the name of content enrichment courses. They have been doing. I am a party for that. I have been going there. Therefore, there are UGC's initiative already it has been taken and doing well. Okay.
So one more participant is there. Dr. Preeti Pregyan, you may ask the question, sir. Dr. Preeti Pregyan.
Unmute and then.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Tell me.
Firstly, sir, I must congratulate you for your wonderful presentation, sir. It was a very enriching presentation.
Thank you.
Sir, sir, I just wanted to ask, sir, actually, I wanted to see the first slide of your presentation. I missed some points. Actually, I was writing down. Extremely sorry, sir. I just wanted to see the first slide.
Suresh?
Sir,
Huh?
I have jotted down every slides,
Yeah,
only the
yeah,
first
yeah,
one.
yeah.
so
1 minute. Okay. 1 minute. First slide, no? Okay.
Yes, sir, only the first slide.
Yeah, the
So,
first slide. Yeah, I will
yes,
tell you
sir.
what is the first slide. Yeah, he will show you. Because
Yes, sir.
first slide,
Establishment of quality yes, sir.
yeah, exactly. The first slide,
I have written half. Yes, sir.
Here,
Yes, sir. Yes.
according to me, this is a general introductory slide for me. Because
sir.
in order to introduce the different incentive schemes, I wanted to say these are all the areas in which we are all working in higher education. For example, our concern is quality assurance mechanism. We have to work out. We have to use the mechanism by means of which quality can be assured and ultimately quality can be there. Like that, what all we are doing at the higher education level, I have taken few points here and there, and
Yes,
based upon these points, government has come out with the initiatives. UGC has come out with the initiative. MHRD. Like that, I have linked this to the other slides. That's all. Anything you wanted to ask question regarding this?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, it's thank you so much, sir.
Okay, right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Okay, fine. Yeah, any
Other
other questions?
participants, you may ask the questions.
Yeah, in case. Habib, no questions?
Yes, sir. No questions, sir.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions.
One participant raised a hand. I will unmute him.
Yeah, please ask. Allow him. Okay.
Dr. Mohinder, you may ask the question, sir.
Unmute and
yes, sir. Dr. Swami, I have heard the wonderful presentation. This was very much needed because government is trying to give so much to the institutions. I think there must be some plan to aware the institutions because many schemes are there and they don't reach the ground level, is there any platform, any type of scheme so that awareness, one effort you have done today, wonderful effort, but this is not sufficient. Only the people who have joined, I feel that there should be awareness part.
Madam, thank you very much. I appreciate your concern. That's why I said there are many schemes and many of the student people, the target people, they themselves are not aware of. I am just telling you. Therefore, the suggestion would be at your own institution, when you are conducting the induction program to the students, you can have half a day session, wherein you can introduce the schemes of whatever that I mentioned, all schemes, including the latest one. Because of paucity of time, I must have omitted few. The first point, you assign this task, make it mandatory that every year in the beginning of the academic year, you conduct a training program, maybe online or offline, and that should reach everybody, preferably first year students, because by the time they go to the second year, they will be aware about this. You conduct this awareness program first year half a day, or offline as well as online, both you can do. And then you can have a small committee of few staff members so that they can classify and find out, keeping the nature of your institution, which are the schemes which are very much relevant to them. Supposing if I am running an arts college, technical education incentives may not be of any help to me. In such case, I can avoid. Like that, shortlist some of the programs which are applicable to you, and then if you think of an action plan by means of which you can put it to action in your own institution, so that your students and staff members, let them get the benefit. I think a lot of schemes are there. In that way you have to proceed, madam. Therefore, my suggestion is that action plan should be there in your institution after making induction program and awareness program in the beginning, ending up with an action plan, and you have to put it into action and get the benefit of that. That is my expectation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Gautam, correct. You may ask the question.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, Gautam. Tell me.
First of all, I would like to thank you very much, sir, for your innovative, thought-provoking, insightful, and informative lecture, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, my question is that, like Delhi government sent so many teachers for training in Europe or American university. So, like that, do we have some international mechanism to send our professors for the training in European or American countries?
Sir, definitely. In fact, Gautam, I appreciate you because unless we encourage some of our faculty members to get the opportunity of going outside, see the outside world and see the best practices that are there, it may not be possible for us to implement it here. Therefore, 100% I appreciate you. There are schemes are there, like Fulbright scholarship facilities are there. Like the bright students can go to UK, go to other places, and the government will give a lot of support, financial assistance. I think there are many schemes. Today I have not planned and prepared for it, but there are many schemes available. You have to encash that, and still I expect the National Education Policy 2020, wherein more scope should be there for this kind of opportunities. More scope. Moving from state to state opportunity, wherein they can go maybe in the name of research or specialized knowledge, for which whatever the cost that will be there, that should be reimbursed by the state government or university or the central government. Similarly, if they wanted to go for outside in the name of research, in the name of conducting experiment, or in the name of collecting, sharing their data, I think opportunities are there. We should increase that more in number. Definitely, I appreciate your concern, and it is there. You kindly check, sir. If I come across, I also may pass on that information. Thank you. There are schemes. Thank you.
Sir, we'll take one more question, sir, from
yes. Oh, okay.
Dr. S.B. Nageshwar.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Sir, you may ask the question, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Nagesh. Tell me.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving a comprehensive body of knowledge about higher education.
Thank you.
We are very happy about it. Sir, my clarification is, what is the difference between Margadarshak and E-Paramarsh?
Okay, now anyhow, Margadarshak means actually the role of a guide. Margadarshak means probably some kind of tips we are going to get, some kind of suggestions we are going to get, for which if there is a concept like Margadarshak, I think we have to accept. Margadarshak means helping or guiding or suggesting or doing some kind of mentoring process. All these things will come under that Margadarshak. Paramarsh means it has got one more dimension according to me. Vimarsh and Paramarsh, probably you are aware. In Vimarsh, we go for critical analysis. Vimarsh means critical analysis. You read something, what are the plus points which are there, what are the negative points are there, you can speak both of it now. In Paramarsh means you can go little more in detail to have a better understanding. The concept of Paramarsh is to make everybody to get the benefit. Therefore, if you do that kind of Paramarsh, for the well-being of everybody, according to me, for the well-being of everybody, whatever you are doing, Paramarsh. Now, I mentioned about the Paramarsh scheme introduced by UGC, you know. Therefore, Paramarsh scheme is providing an opportunity for the people, one who knows to share, one who do not know to accept or receive it. Therefore, in Paramarsh, we do have got both. One who has got should be ready to share, one who has not ready to receive it. I think that's why the Paramarsh scheme says the institutions which have got all A grades, that means they have achieved one level of efficiency, one level of competency. Therefore, they should have some kind of helping nature for the people who are around their own community. Invite them, share their knowledge, equip them, make them also to come up in life. In Paramarsh, we do it. In Vimarsh, we say this is good, this is bad, this much. In Margadarshak now, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. If you do like this, you will reach like this. In that way, in Margadarshak, we proceed. I think.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
That is my instant answer to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any other?
No questions, sir.
Right. Then we request Ruchi, madam. Is she there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ruchi? Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam. You can start.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Very good evening to all. It's my great privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this Upanyasa Malika Lecture Series 11, topic Newer Initiative in Higher Education. First and foremost, I thank our Director, S.C. Sarma sir, for your kind support and organizing this event, and your guidance has always encouraged us. Thank you, sir. And also thank you, sir, for your talk, that is Introduction to Newer Initiative in Higher Education. Thank you, sir. I also express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. S. Srikanta Swamy, academic expert, research and analysis wing, NAAC, for this event to become successful. Thank you, sir. And also thank you for your deliver the talk on the topic Newer Initiative in Higher Education, UGC, AICTE, and MHRD. Thank you, sir, for a thought-provoking lecture.
Thank you, madam.
I also thank Dr. Nilesh Pandey, Assistant Advisor NAAC, for the welcome and introduction. I thank all the eminent participants for sparing your valuable time for making this program successful. I am thankful to ICT NAAC for his immense support for this webinar and for moderating the question answer session, sir. Thank you all. I am also acknowledging the contribution of all the academic staff as well as administrative staff of the NAAC for making this program successful. Finally, I leave you the inspiring quote in the COVID time. Caring for someone is easy, but to make someone care for you is difficult. So never lose the one who really cares for you. Once again, I thank you. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ruchi, madam. Thank you. I thank Amya Kumarji, Samuel, Habib, Suresh, and all those who have involved in providing this platform to make us to reach the people who are far away. My special appreciation to all my participants once again. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.